Here's the hard truth about passive income. There is no such thing as truly passive income. The closest thing is maybe stocks. And even with stocks, the problem is you have to hold it for more than a year, over a year. Otherwise, you pay some sort of penalty tax. And even so, the growth is slow unless you have volume. At the same time, you can easily lose money in the stock market. I know I have. So there's no such thing as truly passive income. Now let's take an example. Renting a house, renting an apartment. That is probably the most common example that we use in our society as passive income. Yes, renters pay rent, therefore the homeowner or landlord receives the money that's considered passive income. But what we don't take into consideration is the hard work that they took to save up that money to then put a down payment for that house and all the work that they have done in the beginning, right? Yes, you can argue that some are inherited, so we're not going to really talk about that inheritance side of things where they haven't really put in the work. People can argue that is generational, but we're not going to get into that right now. So the definition of passive income really is assets that earn you money while you sleep. So what's the whole point? My point is that rather than thinking or striving, oh, I want passive income because it's going to make me money and I don't have to do anything, we want to get that fallacy out of our head. What we want to do is rewire our brain to understand that in order to get this so-called passive income, we have to put in work now. You have to understand that we have to put in work now. When we do it, we have to put in all of our effort, and we have to do it with no expectations in return. Over time, that effort and work will then compound into what will be considered passive income. So it's basically like a get paid later model. The key is this: we don't want to fall into the trap of trading our time for money. Yes, when you're growing up and learning about life and business and making money and all that, we have to trade our time in. We have to put in our time. In return, we get paid. And from there, we save up. And then we can then invest in these things that will later generate us passive income. We have to obtain the knowledge first. But we only want to do that for a certain amount of time. So what am I trying to say? Here, let me show you. So, passive income really looks like this. Here, we have time. And everyone's timeline is different. So this right now is arbitrary. And this here is really your effort, as well as your money, investment, etc. And what we want to understand is that the graph actually looks like this. In the beginning, we need to invest a lot of effort, time, and money. Over time, we will hit a break-even point. But once we get there, we will then start earning our residual payments, our money, our income. This here is passive income, right? As long as we understand that we need to do this part in order to have any sort of opportunity to go this way, we got to put in our effort, time, money, investment, all that stuff. Does that make sense? Okay, so what does this all mean? There's no such thing as truly passive income. What we have to understand is in order for us to even have the probability to have passive income, we have to realize that we have to put in active work now. But we just have to make sure that we don't trade in our time for money. And we have to understand that the time that we invest in the beginning might offset the amount of money you would get for a while. But once you hit that break-even point, that income coming back in is essentially a pay-you-later model. And with that being said, you have to ensure that the income versus the effort ratio is really off. Meaning, you get more than the amount of time you put in. But in the beginning, when you put in the time, you don't realize how little time that is compared to what you will get in the future. Does that make sense? So, at the end of the day, don't trade your time for money. There's no such thing as truly passive income. But in order for us to get any sort of passive income, we have to put in work now. And we have to create systems. We have to be disciplined. We have to be consistent. So I hope this helps with any sort of fallacy that you have or any sort of false hope, to be honest. Because at the end of the day, we got to put in the work, right? But we're going to do it now so that later we can reap all the hard work that we've put in with what we call as passive income. All right? So happy Friday. I hope you have a good rest of the weekend, and I'll see you tomorrow.